Hi, I'm Lee Jun. Today, Rabina and I will talk about comparative advantage. Comparative advantage is the advantage between two countries by trading goods with each other. If the foreign country can produce another set of goods at relatively cheap price than the other country, then it is obvious that a trade between the two countries would be advantage to the both. There are two well-known models, which is the Ricardo model and Heckscher-Ohlin model. The Ricardo model suggests that the countries specialize in producing goods and services that they can do best and assume that there's only one factor of production, which is labor. The model suggests that the trade occurs between countries because of the differences in labor productivity that occurs because of the technological differences. For the Heckscher-Ohlin model, unlike Ricardo model, it suggests that there are two factors of production, which is labor and capital, and it has a comparative advantage over the other because of the differences in relative amount of each factor. The model suggests that the country should produce and export goods using the resource that they have in abundance and import goods that require resource that they have in short supply. This model is different from the comparative advantage theory that focuses on the efficiency of the production process. Because the country produces goods based on the resources that they have in abundance, it will be cheapest to produce these goods. Therefore, countries that have more capital will specialize in capital-intensive goods, and countries with more labor will specialize in labor-intensive goods. Then, these countries will trade these goods with each other. These two theories above are partly effective in their explanation of the real trade. However, in reality, the notion of intra-industry trade had been proposed given the fact that these traditional theories had not been able to explain the major part of global trade. Ricardo model and Heckscher-Ohlin model are on the whole used in understanding real trade pattern while taking intra-industry trade into account. Now I'll talk about the comparative advantage in China and India. During the period of mid-80s to year 2000, Chinese agriculture international competitiveness exists in labor-intensive commodities like fruit, sugarcane, tobacco, while the land-intensive commodities like wheat, rapeseed, and corn remain uncompetitive. In that period of time, all commodities experience a decline of their competitiveness, and one of the main reasons is the rise of opportunity cost, which will impact negatively on labor-intensive commodities. As far as integration between Chinese agriculture competitiveness and its trade is concerned, China did capture its comparative advantage in trade by importing commodities in which it is not internationally competitive like grain, oilseed, and exporting commodities in which it is internationally competitive like peanuts, fruit, and tobacco. For the Indian agriculture, it occupied a great position in global market over the years, like teas, coffee, rice, spice, cashew, and etc. However, the country confronts a cruel competition with other competitors, and most of them are from Asian countries like China, Malaysia, Philippines, and others. Since the reformation of economic in 1991, the Indian economy had rapidly gone through a transformation. During the time, the exportation of different agriculture commodities from India has various responses. Besides, there was a great change in their level of comparative advantage in the global market. For example, India has enjoyed a comparative advantage in tea export but has portrayed a declining trend over the years, losing its comparative advantage to other coffee exporters like Vietnam and Indonesia, unstable pattern of comparative advantage in the exportation of rice, a gradual decline in the exportation of spice and cashew as well, same situation for the fresh fruit and fresh vegetable. But India has strengthened its position in global market in export of oil mills. In conclude, India's comparative advantage in most of the important agriculture export has been found to be eroding and losing out to other Asian competitors in certain commodities during the period after economic reforms. Now I'll pass to Rabina.
Hello, my name is Rabina Hona, and today I'm going to talk about the comparison between the comparative advantage of India and China. The India and China, they are very similar in size, but not just in size, but in factor endowments as well. They have adequate similarities in terms of comparative advantage. So as we speak of India, it has over 1,500 tool commodities that it enjoys comparative advantage in, and mostly in sectors like organic chemicals, cotton, iron, and steels are the primary ones. And when we talk about section-wise, it enjoys comparative advantage in silk. And of the top 10 sectors that has been ranked according to RC Index, it includes sectors like tea, coffees, spices, and woven fabrics, etc. So let's talk about China now. The China has over sectors that it enjoys its part of comparative advantage, including mostly electrical and electrical equipments, and also the sectors such as feather and toys and manufacturing of leathers, etc. And when we talk about section-wise, it includes manufacture of bird skin and artificial flowers, human hair, etc. So when we talk about the real deal of comparison, we can see that India has a higher comparative advantage than China in sectors of special woven and lace in the year 2000 and 2003. Also, it dominated China in the area in the sectors such as fish, cereals, and vegetables, etc. in both the years. While China also had a higher comparative advantage than India in products of animal origin and footwear and bird skin, etc. in both the years in 2000 and 2003. For India, the predominant sector remained to be agriculture and other allied products. Similarly, for China, it was resource-based manufacture as well as other machinery and equipments. Apart from this, both the countries, they have their high and lows of comparative advantage, but they do have such sectors where both of the countries are equally advantageous, and some of them are edible vegetables and accessories. And also, apart from those, it also includes labor and resource intensive manufacturers such as textile and clothing accessories, in which both the countries they equally have the comparative advantage. And also another significant sector is that of organic chemical. So these were the comparisons between India and China in terms of various sectors and industries. To conclude, I would say that both the countries, they are advantageous for science-based manufacture. And when we talk about absolute terms, China is definitely twice as much advantageous in science-based manufacturers than India. And when we have to speak for India, it had predominant advantages in the field of medicinal and pharmaceutical products, whereas China was predominant in the areas of photographic films and accessories. Lastly, despite the similarities between the country, there was no correlation between them in the manufacturing sectors. Instead, they had a very competitive relationship in the organic and inorganic chemical sectors. While in the contrary, there was a complementary relationship that was manifested in labor and resource intensive sectors. So those are the comparisons between India and China, and the conclusion. Thank you so much.